When I worked in hospice, which I did for 8 years, we used to have experiences with patients frequently where they, you know, of getting close to the actual dying time, and they're starting to see the other side before they actually transition. Did you ever have any of those experiences?
Yeah.
Where they're starting to talk to family members who have long since passed.
That happened a couple of times. All of a sudden, they'd say, "John, you're here." And I'd say, "Who's John?" "Oh, that's my uncle that died. He's right over there."
And they're truly surprised to see them, and it seems like they're really in the room.
Yeah.
And
they could be, spirit form.
Right.
Yeah, very much so. So it was interesting. And the school nurse part, that was kind of fun. I never realized how hard school nurses work. You know, I used to think it was a piece of cake when I'd hear about, oh, I'll retire doing that. Well, it's a lot of work. Kids.
You worked as a school nurse?
Yeah, I worked as a school nurse for 5 years in Woburn.
What was the toughest part about that job?
You know, it's more like being a psychologist. The kids come down with lots of issues. You know, it manifests itself in physical problems. And then all of a sudden you find out all these emotional problems they have.
Yeah.
So, you know, from physical and sexual abuse to, you know, just kids harassing them and bullying, things like that. Yeah, it was very rewarding. But the physical end of it, a lot of kids with allergies, the peanut allergies and asthma.
Sure.
And I was a nurse at the school at the Clap when that little boy died with the van.
Right. Yeah.
So that was horrendous. That was awful.
How long has it been since you've been out of that position?
I left there in 2006.
Okay. Not that
so
long
not
ago.
that long ago, yeah.
And some of those experiences have made it into...
Well, I had been per diem before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so those actual stories weren't in this book.
Okay, so you wrote the first book, and that got you juiced up to do more, right?
Yeah.
You had the bug?
I had the bug. I had the bug to continue writing, and it was, you know, I was really out on the road presenting the book, doing things like this TV shows and radio shows, and 30th in September was doing well, still is doing well, but 2001, 9/11 happened that September, and all of a sudden nobody was paying attention to anything about our country and what was going on. So book sales dropped, not just for me, for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
So that's when I said, well, I think I'll put, you know, getting out there and selling it on hold for a while and start another book. So that's how the second book came to be.
And the second book was, which one is number 2?
Loving Joe Gallucci.
Love and Life with Hepatitis C is also part of the title. Let me read about that one.
Yeah, that's a subtitle.
Okay, Loving Joe Gallucci is a romantic tale of Meg Flaherty, daughter of an eminent Massachusetts senator, and Jimmy Romano, a blue-collar boy always trying to prove himself to the imperious Flaherty clan. The novel chronicles their tumultuous courtship and marriage as they progress from heavy drinkers and IV drug users to sober and respectable members of the community who must pay the price for the reckless acts of their younger years. Loving Joe Gallucci is a story of redemption, resurrection, of the Romano family through triumph over adversity, through faith, hope, and unconditional love. Let's hear about this one.
Yeah. Well, this book was really special to me. Like I said, I like topics that people, you know, like to have to think about, and I wanted to do some research, and hepatitis C was becoming very in the news.
Right.
And for those who don't know, hepatitis C is a virus that affects the liver, and it destroys the liver. It can cause liver cancer, cirrhosis, fibrosis, and then eventually death.
Right.
So I had gone to nursing school with, and the names are all fictitious, but I had gone to nursing school with Meg Flaherty in the book. And her husband, Jimmy, had hepatitis C, and he ended up having a liver transplant. So I asked them, they live in Florida, they wanted their name, they wanted to be anonymous, and it remains anonymous, but they, I wanted to write about their love story because it was an unbelievable story. So they agreed, as long as I didn't, you know, disclose who they were. And it was a happy ending.
Yeah.
So I started to write it, and my husband and I went on vacation to visit his sister in San Diego. And while we were there, my husband Gary hurt himself jogging. Like, I mean, it wasn't, he hurt his neck, and it has nothing to do with what happened particularly, other than it brought him to the doctor when we got home.
Right.
And so when we got home, he went, and they couldn't find a thing wrong with his neck, but they decided to do blood work because he hadn't been to the doctors forever, because men are notorious for not going to the doctors.
Of course, we're fine. We don't need...
So they did blood work, and they found out he had hepatitis C.
Oh, boy.
I mean, it was just so weird. So I said, should I continue writing this? Like, how bad is this hepatitis C, and what's going to happen? So we found out his wasn't so bad. He got treatment, the ribavirin and the interferon. He was on it 2 different times. And we talked about it, and I decided to continue to write the story, but now I intertwined all of us, 2 couples, 4 people.
I see.
And I made it into a love story, our story and their story.
My goodness.
So a lot of it's my life, a lot of it's their life, and some of it's flowered. You know, there's some made-up parts. But, you know, it has brought a huge awareness to the hepatitis C community.
Now, how much time did it take to put this book together from start to finish?
Well, you know, this was easier to write because all I had to do was, I knew the story. I knew my story. I had to do a lot of research on liver disease, and as, you know, as much as I'm a nurse and I know about it, you know, I still had to do some research and know my stuff. And I had to do a lot of research in drug addiction and cocaine addiction, because in the book that part was fictitious with Jimmy having cocaine addiction. So I had to do research on that, and Florida. I didn't know that much about Florida and the Florida Keys where they ended up, and you know, it went from there. But you know, I have met and still are meeting some wonderful people in the hepatitis community, and 60% of the people who have hepatitis C are drug users or things like that. The other 40% are blood transfusions and tattoos, even brushing your teeth, razor blades, passed on blood to blood.
No kidding.
Yeah, you've got to be very careful.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, this brought to light my girlfriend that I have lived across the street from, Kathy, my girlfriend Kathy. Her daughter's a lawyer in New York City. So, and she's an entertainment lawyer. So she read the book and she said, this is a great story. She said, I think I'm going to try making this into a script.
Really?
A movie. So Renee finished it. Renee Moore, she's a lawyer, and she's finished it. It's a script. She's had it edited, and now she's in the process of trying to get it out there to producers, try to get it into a movie.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're very willing to talk to people about it and see what happens. I mean, nothing may happen, but something might happen.
Yeah,
who knows?
Who knows is right.
Yeah. So it's been very interesting, and yeah, it has brought to light, like I said, the hepatitis C.
It must have been just a fascinating journey for just the process of putting it all together. Having done the first book, gotten energy to continue writing, and then to dive into this project and all that you've learned.
Yeah,
and all that you've taught, you know.
Yeah.
You know, brought in the connections that have been made.
Yeah, and it was easy to do in a lot of ways because of being a nurse. I mean, you know what you need to look for with hepatitis and the treatment, but it goes into that it's a family disease, not just hepatitis C, but anything, cancer, and how families deal with it. In the book, there's a character, Mario, who's this big tough hockey player. He's their son, and he finds out his father has hepatitis C, and he flips out, like, well, Dad, wait a minute, how'd you get hepatitis C? And then he finds out how he gets it, and he said, all right, so you have hepatitis C, you might die, and you're telling me you were a drug addict. Like, this isn't great for the 16-year-old to hear.
Probably not, no.
So he is embarrassed, he's worried, he's frightened, shocked.
Yeah.
You know, how long's my dad going to live? So Mario starts to act out, which is so typical of a teenager. So it kind of delves into the family life of somebody with a chronic illness.
Wow.
Yeah.
Many layers.
Yeah, it's layered.